What's going on, everybody? We're reading it, chapter 3, subchapter 2. You know, this one loss, it takes 100 pages to read. So, yeah. Chapter 2, or subchapter 2. Richard Tozier takes power. Rich felt like he was doing pretty good until the vomiting started. He had listened to everything Mike Hamlin told him, said all the right things, answered my questions, even asked a few of his own. He was vaguely aware he was doing one of his voices. Not a strange and outrageous one, like as he sometimes did on the radio. Kinky briefcase sexual accountant was his own personal favorite. At the time being a positive listener response on Kinky was almost as high for his listener's all-time favorite. Colonel Buford Kissdribble. But a warm, rich, confident voice. And I'm not a great voice. Sounded great, but it was just a lie. Just like all the other voices were lies. How much do you remember, Rich? Very little, Rich said, in a pause. Enough, I suppose. Will you come? I'll come, Rich said, and hung up. He sat in the study for a moment, leaning back in the chair behind his desk, looking out the Pacific Ocean. A couple of kids went down on the left, horsing around on their surfboards, not really riding them. There wasn't much safe to read. What I've read is the clock on the desk, an expensive LED quartz that had been a gift from a record company rep, said that it was 5:09 p.m. on May 28th, 1985. It would, of course, be 3 hours later when Mike was calling from. Where Mike was calling from. Dark already. He felt a prick of goose flesh at that, and he began to move, to do things. First, of course, he put it on a record. Not hunting, just grabbing blindly among the thousands racked on shelves. Rock and roll was almost as much a part of his life as the voices. It was as hard for him to do anything without music. And the louder, the better. The record he grabbed turned out to be a Motown retrospective. Marvin Gaye, one of the newer members of what Rich sometimes called the All Dead Band, came on saying, I heard it through the grapevine. I bet you're wondering how I knew. Not bad, said Rich said. He even smiled a little. This was bad. And it had admittedly knocked him for a loop. But he felt that he was going to be able to handle it. No sweat. He began getting ready to go back home. And at some point, during the next hour, it occurred to him that it was as if he had died. They had not and yet have been allowed to make all of his own final business dispositions. Not to mention his own funeral arrangements. And he felt as if he was doing pretty good. Thanks, ready to join me, my guy. He began getting ready to go back home. And at some point during the next hour, it occurred to him that it was as if he had died, and yet had been allowed to make all of his final business dispositions. Not to mention his own funeral arrangements. He felt as if he was doing pretty good. He tried the travel agent he used, thinking she would probably be the one on the freeway and headed home by now, but taking a shot on the off chance. For a wonder, he caught her in. He caught her in. He told her what he needed, and she asked him for 15 minutes. How are you going, Carol? He said, I haven't progressed from Mr. Tozier and Mrs. Feeney. Feeney! Sorry, boy, you saw a flashback right there. To Rich and Carol over the last 3 years. Pretty charming, considering they had never met face to face. All right, pay off, she said. Can you do a kinky briefcase for me? Without even pausing, if you had to pause to find your voice, there was usually no voice every time. Rich said, Kinky briefcase, sexual accountant here. I had a fellow come in the other day who wanted to know what the worst thing was about getting AIDS. His voice dropped slightly. At the same time, its rhythm had speeded up and gotten jaunty. It was clearly an American voice, and it somehow conjured up images of a wealthy British colonial chappie who was charming in his moderate way as he was adult. Rich hadn't thought the slightest who Kinky Rickface really was, but he was sure he would always wear white suits, red esquire, and drink things which came in tall glasses more like coconut scented shampoo. I told him right away, trying to explain to him what the hell you picked up from a hot Haitian girl. Until next time, this is Kinky Briefcase Sexual Gun, he said, saying, you need my card if you can't get hard. Carol Feeney screamed with laughter. That's perfect, perfect. My boyfriend says he doesn't believe you can just do those voices. He says it's got to be a voice filter gadget or something. Just talent, my dear, Woods said. Kinky Briefcase was gone. W.C. Fields, top hat, red nose, golf bags, and all, was here. I'm so stuffed with talent I have to plug up all my bodily orifices to keep it from running out just running out. She went off into another screaming gale of laughter, and Rich closed his eyes. He could feel the beginnings of a headache. Be good, dear, and see what you can do, would you? He asked, was still being W.C. Fields and hung up on her laughter. Now he had to go back to being himself, and that was hard. It got harder every year. It was easier to be brave when you were someone else. He was trying to pick out a pair of good loafers and had about decided to stick with sneakers when the phone rang again. It was Carol Feeney back in record time. He felt an instant urge to fall into the Buford Fitzgerald voice and fought it off. She had been able to get him a first-class seat on the American Express Airlines red-eye non-stop from LAX to Boston. He would leave LA. He would leave LA at 9:03 p.m. and arrive at Logan about 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Delta would fly him out of Boston at 7:30 a.m. and advance Bangor, Maine at 8:20. She had got him a full-size sedan from Avies, and it was only 26 miles from the Avis counter at Bangor International Airport to the Dairy Town line. Only 26 miles? Which thought? Is that all, Carol? Well, maybe it is, in miles anyways. But you don't have the slightest idea how far it really is there. I don't either. But oh God, oh dear, I am going to find out. I didn't try for a room because you didn't tell me how long you'd be there, she said. Do you? No, let me take care of that, Rich said. And then Buford Kistra will take over. You've been a peach, my dear. A Chachawa beach. Pizza costs. He hung up gently on her. Always leave him hanging laughing. And then dialed 207-555-1212 for a state of Maine directory assistance. I want to call that number later, just to see if it's an actual phone number. You wanted a number for the Dairy Townhouse. God. There was a name from the past. You haven't thought of Dairy Townhouse in what, 10 years, 20, 25 years even? Crazy as it seems, you guessed it had been at least 25 years. And if Mike hadn't come, you suppose he might never have thought of it again in his life. And yet there had been a time in his life when he had walked past that great red brick Ohio every day. And on more than one occasion, he had run past it, sending Powers and Belch Huggins and the other big boy, Richard somebody or some or other, in pursuit. All of them yelling little pleasantries like, "We're gonna get you, fuckface! Yeah, I'm gonna get you! You little smartass! Gonna get you, you little four-eyed faggot! Have they ever gotten him?" Before Rich could ever, have they ever gotten him? Before Rich could remember, an operator was asking him what city, please. And Derry, operator. Derry, God, even a word felt strange and forgotten in his mouth. Saying it was like kissing an antique. Derry, God. Do you even remember? Do you have a number for the Derry townhouse? One moment, sir. No way, I'll be gone. Raised in an urban renewal program. Changington, Ellis Hall, or a Ballerdrome, or an electric dreamscape video arcade. Or maybe they burnt down one night when the odds finally ran out of some drunk she salesman smoking in bed. All gone, Richie. Just like the glasses Henry Bowers always used to rag you about. What's that Springsteen song say? Glory days gone in the wink of a young girl's eye. What young girl? Wait, why Bev, of course. Bev. Change the town. Change the townhouse might be. But gone apparently was not. Because a blank robotic voice now came into the line. And I said, that number is 941 2. I'm sorry. The number is 941 8282. Repeat. The number is. But Richard got it the first time. It was a pleasure to hang up on the drumming voice. It was easy to imagine some great globular directory system monster buried somewhere in the earth, sweating rivers and holding thousands of telephones and thousands of jointed chromium tentacles. The Mabel version of Spidey's nemesis, Dr. Octopus. Each year, the world Rich lived in felt more and more like a huge electronic haunted house in which digital ghosts and frightened human beings lived in an uneasy coexistence. Still standing, to paraphrase Paul Simon, still standing after all these years. He dialed the hotel he had last seen through the horn room spectacles of his childhood, dialing that number, 1-207-941-8282, was fatally easy. He held the telephone to his ear, looking out his study's wide picture window. The surfers were gone. A couple were walking slowly up on the beach, hand in hand, or they had been. The couple could have been a poster on the wall of the travel agency that was, for the fact they were both wearing glasses. Gonna get you, fluffies? You had to break your glasses. Chris, his mind said grossly. His name was Chris. Victor Chris. Oh, Christ. That was nothing he wanted to know. Not at this late date. But it didn't seem to matter in the slightest. Something was happening down there in the vaults. Down there where Rich Tozier kept his own personal collection of golden oldies. Doors were opening. Only they're not records in here, are they? Down there, they're not Rich Records Tozier. Hotshot Clyde DJ. A DJ and the man of 1,000 voices, are you? And those things are opening. They aren't exactly doors, are they? He tried to shake these socks off. Thing to remember is that I'm okay. I'm okay. You're okay. Rich Tozier is okay. Could use a cigarette, though. He had quit 40 years ago, but he could use one now, right? They're not records, but dead bodies. You buried them deep down, but now there was some kind of crazy earthquake going on, and the ground is springing up to the surface. You're not Rich Records Tozier down there. Down there, you're just Richie Four Eyes Tozier, and you're with your buddies. And you're so sick, it feels like your balls are turning to what's this grape jelly. Those are doors. Those aren't doors, and they're not opening. Those are crypts, Richie. You're cracking open the vampires you were dead, all flying out again. A cigarette. Just one. Even a Carlton would do, for Christ's sweet sake. Gonna get you for us. Gonna make you eat the fucking book bag. Townhouse, I mean, a voice with a Yankee tang said. Traveled all the way across New England, the Midwest, under the casinos of Las Vegas to reach us here. Rich asked the voice if he could reserve a suite of rooms at the town's house, beginning tomorrow. The voice told him he could, and then asked for how long. I can't say, he paused briefly, minutely. What did he have exactly? In his mind's eye, he saw a boy with a tartan boat bag running from the tough grass. He saw a boy who wore glasses, a thin boy with a pale face. It somehow seemed to scream, "Hit me! Go on, hit me!" in some mysterious way. "Here's my nose. Bloody it for sure and break it if you can. Box in there so you can so it swells up like cauliflower. Split an eye around. Here's my chin. Go for the knockout button. Your eyes so blue and so magnified. Behind these hateful glasses. These horn rimmed specs, one bell, of which is held on with adhesive tape. Break this specs, drive a sharp glass into one of these eyes. Close it forever. What the hell?" He closed his eyes and said, "I've got business in Derry. You see, I don't know how long the transaction will take. How about 3 days with an option to renew?" "An option to renew?" the desk clerk asked doubtfully, and Rich waited patiently for the fellow to work it over in his mind. "Oh, I get you. That's very good. Thank you, and I hope you can vote for us in November," John F. Kennedy said. "Jackie wants to be at do-over the Oval Office. I got John all lined up at Broda Bobby. Mr. Tozier?" "Yes." "Okay." Somebody else got in the line there for a few seconds. "Just an old Paul from the dock," Richie thought. "That's a dead old party, in case you should wonder. Don't worry about it. It should have worked through him." And he told himself again, almost desperately, "You're okay, Rich." "I heard it too," Rich said. "Must have been a line crossed over. How are we looking on that room?" "Oh, there's no problem with that," the clerk said. "We do business here in Derry, but it never really booms." "Did I say?" "Oh, yeah," the clerk agreed, and Robert shuddered again. He had forgotten that, too. Simple northern New Englisms for yes. "Ooh, oh yeah. Can I get you, freak?" The ghostly voice of Henry Bowers screamed. He felt more crypts cracking open of him inside him. The stench of the smell was not decayed bodies, but decayed memories. And that was somehow worse. He gave the townhouse clerk his American Express number and hung up. Then he called Steve Koval, the Clyde program director. "What's up, Rich?" Steve asked. The last Abertron ratings have showed Clyde at the top of the cannibalistic Los Angeles FM market. And ever since then, Steve had been in an excellent mood. Thank God for small favors. "Well, you might be sorry you asked," he told Steve. "I'm taking a powder." "Taking?" He could hear the frown in Steve's voice. "I don't think I get you, Rich." "I have to put on my boogie shoes. I'm going away." "What do you mean, going away?" "Well, according to the log I have right here in front of me, you're on the air tomorrow from 2 in the afternoon until 6 p.m., just like always. In fact, you're interviewing Clarence Clemens in Studio 4. You know Clarence Clemens, Rich, as in, come on and blow, big man. Clemens can talk to Mike O'Hara as well as he can to me. Clarence doesn't want to talk to Mike, Rich. Clarence doesn't want to talk to Bobby Russell. He doesn't want to talk to me. Clarence is a big fan of Buford Kiss Dribble and White the homicidal bag boy. He wants to talk to you, my friend. And I have no interest in having a pissed off 250-pound saxophone player who once almost drafted by a pro football team running amok in my studio. I don't think he has a history of running amok," Rich said. I mean, we're talking Clarence Clemens here, not Keith Mayer. There was silence on the line. Rich waited patiently. You're not serious, are you? Steve finally asked. You sound plaintive. I mean, unless your mother just died or you gotta go have a brain tumor out or something. This is called crapping out. I have to go, Steve. Is your mother sick? Did she, God forbid, die? She died 10 years ago. Have you got a brain tumor? Not even a rectal polyp. This is not funny, Rich. No. You're being a fucking bush and I don't like it. I don't like it either, but I have to go. Where? Why? What is this? Talk to me, Rich. Someone called me. Someone I used to know a long time ago. In another place. Back then, something happened. I made a promise. We all promised that we'd go back if something started happening again. And I guess it has. What something are we talking about, Rich? I just as soon not say. Honestly, you'll think I'm crazy if I tell you the truth. I don't remember. When did you make this famous promise? A long time ago. In the summer of 1958. There was another long pause, and he knew Steve Koval was trying to decide if Rich Rickard Tozier, a.k.a. Buford Kistreville, a.k.a. White to Homicide Bad Boy, etc., was having fun on him, or was having some kind of mental breakdown. He would have been just a kid, Steve said flatly. 11, going on 12. Another long pause. Rich waited patiently. All right, Steve said. I'll shift the rotation. Hook Mike in for you. I can call Chuck Foster to pull in a few shifts, I guess. If I can find out what Chinese restaurant he's currently holding it up in. I do it because we go back a long way together. But I'm never going to forget you. Push that on me, Rich. Oh, get down off it, Rich said. But the headache was getting worse. He knew what he was doing. Did Steve really think he didn't? I need a few days off, is all. You're acting like I took a shit out on FCC charter. A few days off for what? A reunion of your Cub Scout packing shit House Falls, North Dakota? Or Pussy Hump City, West Virginia? Actually, I think it's Shit House Falls in Arkansas, though. Beaverkind. Actually, I think it's Shit House Falls in Arkansas, though. Beaver Kiss Rebel said in a big, hollow barrel voice. But Steve was not to be diverted. Because you made a promise when you were 11. Kids don't make serious promises when they're 11, for Christ's sakes. It's not that, Rich. You know it. This is not an insurance company. This is not a law office. This is show business. Be it ever so humble, you fucking well know it. If you had given me a week's notice, I wouldn't be holding this phone in one hand and the bottom of one in the other. You're putting my balls to the wall, and you know it. So don't you insult my intelligence. Steve was nearly screaming now. Rich closed his eyes. I'm never going to forget it, Steve had said. Rich supposed he never would. Steve had also said kids didn't make serious promises when they were 11. And that wasn't true at all. Rich couldn't remember what the promise had been. Wasn't sure he wanted to remember. But it had to have been plenty serious. Steve, I have to. Yeah, and I told you I could handle it. So, go ahead. Go ahead, you butcher. Steve, this is... But Steve had hung up. Dick. Rich put the phone down. He had barely started away from him when it began to ring again. And he knew. Without picking it up, that was Steve again. Madder than ever. Talking to him at this point would do no good. Things would just get uglier. He slid the switch on the side of the phone to the right, cutting it off mid-ring. Not too much longer, Chet. He went upstairs, pulled two suitcases out of the closet, and filled them with the barely glanced at cargo material of clothes. Jeans, shirts, underwear, socks would not occur to him until later that he had taken nothing but key clothes. Carried the suitcases back downstairs. On the den wall was a black and white Ansel Adams photograph of Big Sur. Rich swung it back on its hidden hinges, exposing a barrel safe. He opened it, pawed his way past the paperwork. The house here, poised cozily between the fault line and brush fire zone, 20 acres of timberwood in Idaho, a bunch of stocks. He had bought the stock seemingly at rent. When his broker saw all risen Rich coming, he immediately clutched his head. But stocks had all risen steadily over the years. He was sometimes surprised by the thought that he was almost, not quite, but almost a rich man. All courtesy of rock and roll music and the voices, of course. House, acres, stocks, insurance policies, even a copy of his last will and testament. The strings that bind you tight to the map of your life, he thought. There was a sudden wild impulse to whip out his Zippo and light it up. The whole horrors combined of wherefore is in know ye all men by these presents, and the bearer of these certificates is entitled, and he could do it too. Papers in a safe had certainly increased, ceased to signify anything. The first real terror struck him then. There was nothing at all supernatural about it. There was only a realization of how easy it was to trash your life. That was what was so scary. You started to fan up to everything you had spent the last years breaking to the air and turn the motherfucker on. Easy, burn it up or blow it away. And then just take it powder. Behind the papers, which were only currency's second cousins, was the real stuff. The cash. $4,000 in tens, 20s, and 50s. Taking it now, stuffing it into the pocket of his jeans. He wondered if he somehow hadn't known what he was doing when he put the money in here. $50 one month, 120 the next, maybe only 10 a month after that. We're at home money, taking the powder money. Man, that's scary, he said, barely aware he had spoken. He was looking blankly out at the window at the beach. It was deserted now. The surfer's gone. The honeymooners, that was what they had been, gone too. Ah, yes, Doc. It all comes back to me now. Remember Stanley Uris, for instance? Bet you're furry, I do. Remember how we used to say that? And I think it was so cool? Stanley Urine, the big kids called him. Hey, Urine. Hey, you fucking Christ killer. Where are you going? One of your fat friends giving up on your BJ? He slammed the cafe door shut. He slammed the safe door shut, swung the picture back into place. When he last out of Stan Uris? 5 years ago? 10, 20? Rich and his family had moved away from Darien in the spring of 1960. And how fast all their faces faded. His gang, their pitiful bunch of losers with their World Clubhouse and what had been known as the Barons. Funny name for an area that was as lush with growth as the place had been. Kidding themselves, were jungle explorers with sea bees carving out a landing strip on the Pacific atoll while they held off the Japs. Kidding themselves that they were damn builders, cowboys, spacemen on a jungle world. You name it. But whatever you name it, don't forget what it really was. It was hiding. Hiding from the big kids. Hiding from Henry Bowers and Victor Chris and Belch Huggins. And the rest of them. What a bunch of losers they had been. Stan Uris with his big Jew-boy nose. Bill Denbrook, who could say nothing but, "Hi-yo, Silver," without stuttering so badly that it drove you almost dog shit. Beverly Marsh, with her bruises and her cigarettes rolled into her sleeve of her blouse. Ben Hanscom, who had been so big he looked like a human version of Moby Dick. Damn. And Richie Tozier, with his thick glasses and his A averages and his wise mouth, his face which just begged to be pounded into new and exciting shapes. Was there a word for what there had been? Oh yes, there always was. La Majuste. In the case, La Mot Juste was wimps. How it came back, how all came back. Now he stood in his den, shivering as hopelessly as a homeless mutt got in a thunderstorm, shivering because the guys he had run with weren't all he remembered. There were other things he hadn't thought of in years, trembling now just below the surface. Bloody things, a darkness, some darkness. The house on Nebolt Street, and Bill screaming, "You killed my brother, you fucker!" Did he remember? Just enough not to want to remember anymore. And you could bet your fur on that. They smelled garbage. They smelled shit. And they smelled something else. Something worse than evil. It was the stink of the beast. The stink of it. Down there in the darkness under Derry, where the machines thundered on and on. You remember George? But that was too much, and he ran for the bathroom, blundering into Eamon's chair on his way and almost falling. He made it, barely. He slid across the slick tiles to the toilet on his knees, like some weird break dancer, gripped on the edges and vomited everything in his guts. Even then, it wouldn't stop. Suddenly, he could see George Denbrough, as if it had been last seen him yesterday. Georgie, who had been the start of it all. Georgie had been murdered in the fall of 1957. Georgie had died right after the flood. One of his arms had been ripped from a socket. And Rich had blocked out all of that out of his memory. But sometimes those things come back. Oh, yes, indeed, they come back. And sometimes they come back. The spasm passed, and Richie gripped blindly for the flush. Waterlord. His early supper, regurgitated in hot chunks, vanished tastefully down the drain, into the sewers, into the pound and stink in the darkness of the sewers. He closed the lid, laid his forehead against it, and began to cry. It was the first time he had cried since his mother died in 1975. Without even knowing of what he was doing, he cupped his eyes under his hands, cupped his hands under his eyes, and contacted he wore slipped out and lay glistening in his palms. 40 minutes later, feeling hushed out and somehow cleansed, he threw his suitcases into the truck of his MG and backed it out of the garage. The light was fading. He looked in the house with the new paint plantings. He looked at the beach, at the water, which had taken on the cast of pale emeralds breaking by a narrow track of beaten gold. And the conviction stole over him that he would never see any of us again. That he was a dead man walking. Going home now, Rich Tozier whispered to himself. Going home. God help me. Going home. He put the car in gear and went, feeling again easy it had been to slip through an unsuspected fissure in what he had considered a solid life. How easy it was to get back onto the dark side, to sail out of the blue and into the black. One of the blue and into the dark black, yes, that was it. Where anything might be possible. All right, chat, and that is the end of chapter 3, subsection 2, Richie's chapter. As I was saying, it took me 30 minutes to read that show, so yeah, I'm done reading. I'm gonna take up a little bit, and I will be back on Fortnite here in a little bit. Daves-Raves out. Make sure y'all smash that like button before you leave my video. Peace.